Once in a lifetime, a love story comes along that changes everything. It begins with a chance meeting, a look across a crowded street, and the promise of something more than anyone expected. Years ago, the world fell in love with a woman who dreamed bigger than the life she had, and a man who believed he could never be saved by love. They proved us wrong. But time moves on, and so do the struggles of the heart. Now, decades later, their story is not over. Because some romances don't end, they just wait for the next chapter. Edward Lewis built his life on precision and power. The man who once lived out of hotel rooms, chasing mergers and deals, is now older, calmer on the outside, but restless within. His silver hair carries the weight of decades in boardrooms, but his eyes still search for something beyond. Numbers and signatures. Success came easily, but peace has never stayed. Nights are quieter now, too quiet, and he often finds himself walking the streets of New York, remembering the days when everything felt alive because of her. Vivian Ward has changed as well. The fiery dreamer with the red dress and the fearless laugh grew into a woman who never stopped believing in possibilities. She left behind the world that once defined her, carving her own path as a performer in small theaters, her voice lighting up stages where chandeliers flicker and audiences lean in. She never forgot the man who taught her to believe she deserved more. But she also never forgot that love, no matter how powerful, can fade if left in the shadows too long. Their lives went different ways for many years. Edward buried himself in business until the joy slipped from his hands. Vivian chased a dream that didn't always pay the bills, but filled her with fire. Both of them built worlds apart, but neither fully escaped the memory of that first, unlikely love. They told themselves it was a chapter closed, a beautiful past. But fate, always patient, has a way of opening doors no one expects. It begins with a single night. Edward, attending a charity gala, is surrounded by strangers in tuxedos and practiced smiles. He listens but does not hear, nods but does not feel. Then, across the room, a laugh light, genuine, familiar, cuts through the noise. His eyes search, and for a moment time rewinds. Vivian, in a simple black gown, is speaking with friends, unaware that the past has just found her. She looks older, stronger, radiant in a way only life's battles can shape. Edward feels the ground shift beneath him, as if every year apart collapses into this single second. Vivian notices him too. At first she hesitates, unsure if the man before her is the same one who once climbed fire escapes for love. But then their eyes meet, and the silence between them is louder than the gala's music. Memories flood back: the limousine, the opera, the promise that he would rescue her right back. For a breathless instant it feels as though nothing has changed, and yet everything has. They speak politely, like strangers forced into small talk. But beneath the words lies a storm of things left unsaid, of questions neither has dared to ask in decades. Did he regret letting her go? Did she regret leaving? Can something once broken ever be rebuilt? The night ends without answers. Edward watches her leave, the same way he did long ago, the same way he swore he never would again. But this time he knows, fate does not bring back the past without a reason. And for the first time in years, Edward Lewis feels alive again, not because of money, not because of power, but because of her. The morning after the gala, Edward sits in his office high above the city. The skyline stretches endlessly before him, yet all he sees is her. Vivian's laugh echoes in his mind, softer than he remembers, but still carrying that spark. He tells himself it was chance, nothing more. But the truth presses against him. He had spent years convincing himself she was just a memory. Last night proved she never was. Vivian, meanwhile, wakes in her modest apartment across town. The walls are lined with framed posters from past performances, musicals, local plays, shows, where her name was printed in smaller letters than the stars above. She runs her fingers across one of them, smiling, though her eyes betray exhaustion. The dream she chased is still alive, but it has cost her dearly. The applause is fleeting, the roles are scarce, and the loneliness is real. Seeing Edward again stirs something deep inside her, something she tried to bury beneath rehearsals and curtain calls. Days pass. They don't call, they don't write, but the city conspires against them. Edward sees her name on a poster outside a small theater. His car slows, almost against his will. Later that week, Vivian spots him across the street, exiting a meeting, his face older but no less striking. Each time, they pretend not to notice. Each time, their hearts betray them. The distance between them is not measured in blocks or years. It is measured in the choices they made when they walked away from each other. Edward chose the world of power, control, and safety. Vivian chose uncertainty, creativity, and freedom. Now, when fate pulls them into the same orbit again, those choices hang in the air like shadows. One evening, Edward finds himself outside the theater where Vivian is performing. He tells himself it is only curiosity. The lights dim, the stage comes alive, and there she is, Vivian, illuminated in a soft glow, singing with a voice that silences the crowd. She is not the woman in the red dress anymore. She is something greater, someone who has grown through hardship and triumph. For the first time, Edward realizes he is not looking at the woman he once saved, he is looking at the woman who saved herself. After the show, he waits outside, unsure if he should stay. Vivian exits through the side door, greeted by castmates and well-wishers. She sees him standing there, hands in pockets as if he belongs to another time. Their eyes meet again, and this time there is no denying it. She walks toward him, hesitant but curious. "Edward," she says simply, her voice carrying both warmth and caution. "Vivian," he replies, softer than he intended. The silence that follows feels like a conversation of its own. They walk together through the quiet streets, the city buzzing faintly around them. Their words are polite at first, catching up on years missed her theater work, his endless board meetings. But beneath the surface lies tension, regret, and longing. Edward admits that success brought him everything except joy. Vivian confesses that the stage gave her freedom but never permanence. They laugh at old memories, only to fall quiet when they realize how fragile the moment is. Every step forward feels like a step closer to the truth they've avoided. Their story was never finished, yet even as the spark reignites, new questions rise. Can Edward, the man of wealth and order, accept Vivian's unpredictable world? Can Vivian, the woman of passion and risk, forgive Edward for the years he let slip away? As the night ends, Edward offers to call her. Vivian smiles, but there is hesitation in her eyes. "We'll see," she says, leaving him with both hope and fear. She disappears into the night, her shadow swallowed by the glow of the city. Edward watches her go, a single thought burning in his chest. He cannot lose her again. Not this time. The days that follow are restless. Edward cannot focus. His assistants notice him staring out the window during meetings, his pen motionless over contracts he once devoured with ease. The empire he built no longer feels like a triumph, it feels like a cage. For the first time in years, he is haunted not by failure, but by possibility. The possibility of love reborn, if only he has the courage to reach for it. Vivian feels the same weight, though hers comes from a different place. She is rehearsing for a new play, a chance to finally take a leading role, yet her mind drifts back to Edward. Each time she looks into the stage lights, she wonders if she is strong enough to let him in again. Love once lifted her, but it also broke her. She knows Edward has power, influence, and resources she never had, but she fears those same things will swallow her identity. She worked too hard to be her own woman to risk becoming a shadow in his world. When they meet again, it is not planned. Edward appears at her rehearsal, sitting quietly in the back row. He watches her with an intensity that unnerves her, yet stirs a part of her heart she cannot silence. Afterward, he approaches with flowers in hand, not the dozen roses of old, but a single wildflower, simple and honest. Vivian accepts it, touched but guarded. Their conversation begins tenderly but soon unravels. Edward, with the urgency of a man who knows time is slipping, suggests she step back from small theaters and let him help her find something greater. Vivian bristles at the idea, her independence flaring like fire. "You still think the world has to bend to your will," she tells him, her voice sharp. "And you still think love means walking away the moment someone offers a hand," he fires. Back. The words hang heavy in the air. For a moment, they are no longer older, wiser, calmer. They are the same fiery souls who once collided in a hotel suite, unpolished and raw. That night, Vivian cries alone in her apartment, torn between anger and longing. She knows Edward means well, but his help feels like control. Meanwhile, Edward pours himself a glass of scotch, staring at the city lights, realizing his greatest fear. Perhaps he does not know how to love her the way she needs. The conflict deepens when an opportunity arrives for Vivian. A director from London offers her a role that could change her career forever, starring role in a production that could finally place her name where it belongs, above the lights. It is everything she has worked for, everything she dreamed of since the days she wore borrowed dresses and lived in shadows. But it also means leaving New York, leaving Edward, when she shares the news. Edward congratulates her, but his smile is thin. He wants to support her, yet his heart tightens at the thought of losing her again. Their argument grows sharper, more painful. "You can't ask me to give this up," Vivian says, her voice trembling. "And you can't ask me to pretend it won't tear us apart," Edward replies. Their love, once so full of laughter and rescue, now feels fragile, like glass balanced on a table's edge. They walk away from each other that night, both broken by the words they couldn't take back, yet, even in anger, neither of them can let go. Edward dreams of her every night, hearing her laughter echo in the silence of his penthouse. Vivian, preparing for the role of her life, feels his absence in every quiet corner of her dressing room. They are pulled in opposite directions by ambition and love, by the past and the future. The city becomes their battlefield, streets filled with what-ifs, corners haunted by memories. Every song Vivian rehearses, every meeting Edward endures, feels like a reminder of what they stand to lose, and so the question rises like a storm neither can ignore. Can two people who once saved each other now survive the truth of who they've become? Or will the second chance fate offered slip through their hands forever? The night of Vivian's opening performance in London approaches, and the city hums with anticipation. Newspapers call her the shining star no one saw coming, and critics predict her role will redefine her career. In the weeks since their fight, she has thrown herself into rehearsals, letting every line, every note, every gesture drown out the ache in her heart. Yet behind her practiced smile, she wonders if she has sacrificed more than she can bear. For when the curtain falls and the applause fades, there is an emptiness no spotlight can fill. Across the ocean, Edward lives in silence. His penthouse is immaculate, his suits pressed, his calendar full, but none of it matters. Every evening feels colder without her laughter, every morning more hollow without her presence. He tells himself to let her go, to respect her choice, to believe that she will be happier without his shadow looming over her. But deep down, Edward knows that letting Vivian walk away again would be the greatest mistake of his life. As the night of the premiere draws near, Edward's heart wages war with his pride. He remembers the promise he once made on a fire escape long ago, that love was not about rescue, but about standing together, no matter the cost. For years he had forgotten what it meant to fight for something other than success. Now, for the first time in decades, he has a reason to fight again. On the evening of the performance, London glitters beneath the rain. The theater marquee glows with Vivian's name in bold letters, brighter than she had ever imagined. Backstage, she clutches the hem of her costume, her hands trembling not from nerves but from doubt. She wonders if anyone in the audience will see past the character, if anyone will remember the woman beneath the makeup. And somewhere deep inside, she wonders if Edward will be out there watching, even if unseen. The curtain rises. Vivian steps into the spotlight, her voice carrying through the theater with a power born of survival, of passion, of love found and lost. The audience is spellbound, yet in every note she sings, Vivian feels his absence like a shadow at her side. But then, among the rows of strangers, a familiar face appears. Edward, rain-soaked and breathless, slips quietly into a seat, his eyes never leaving her. He had crossed an ocean not for business, not for duty, but for her. Vivian sees him, just for a moment, and the words catch in her throat. But she carries on stronger than before. As if his presence has given her wings, when the final curtain falls, the audience erupts in thunderous applause. Flowers rain onto the stage, critics stand to their feet, and Vivian bows with tears in her eyes. Yet even in triumph, her gaze searches the crowd for him, backstage. Edward waits, uncertain if she will welcome him or turn away. Vivian enters, her cheeks flushed with victory, her hands trembling with adrenaline. For a moment, they simply stand there, years of pain and distance condensed into silence. Then Edward steps forward, his voice raw. "I came because I realized I don't care about where you perform or how far you go. I only care about being there when the lights go out and it's just us. That's all I've ever wanted." Vivian stares at him, her eyes shimmering with both joy and fear. "And what if I fall again? What if I lose myself in your world?" Edward takes her hand gently, no longer the man who commands, but the man who pleads. "Then we fall together. But this time I won't let go, not ever again." The tension breaks. Vivian laughs through her tears, that same unpolished laugh that once captured his heart. She pulls him close, and for the first time in years, they kiss not as the man who saved her and the woman who needed saving, but as equals who finally found their way back to each other. Outside, the city roars with life, car horns and rain and neon blending into music. Inside, in the quiet glow of the theater, they hold each other, knowing that this is not the end of their story, but the beginning of a new one, because some love stories don't fade with time. They wait. They ache. And when the moment is right, they return stronger than ever before. The screen fades to black, and the words appear, "Pretty Woman 2, 2026. This summer, love takes center stage."